Okay, we're back. So this is kind of part two, left off from the last video that we just completed. So in this video, we're going to be joining a computer to the domain, and we're going to go through the settings that we'll need to do in order for the computer to recognize the domain that it's going to be joined to. And we're going to talk about what actually happens on the back end, where that computer goes over in Active Directory. So let's get started. Let's jump over to that environment. All right, so we're on our test lab computer here. As you can see, this computer here is a vanilla computer. It's not part of a domain or anything like that. So if we open up Command Prompt and we try to ping our environment, this is going to be pinging our domain. And so ping is what we always use as our default test connectivity tool in order to be able to test whether or not we can get somewhere or recognize a name of what we're trying to get to. All right. So if we try to ping that, we can actually see we got no results back. So the reason for this is that our server or our client here does not have any acknowledgement of the domain that we're trying to get to. So without a DNS server, and we're going to get into DNS in a lot more depth once we continue to go through this series, but in order for us to join a computer to the domain, we have to have the IP address on our server in our DNS settings of that server so that we can join it to the domain. So first thing we're going to do is right click on Network Adapter and choose Open Network and Sharing Center. Once that comes up, we're then going to go to the network adapter, which is going to say Ethernet here. So in this case here, we're going to Properties. And you can get to this through Control Panel as well. You can also get to this from the Server Manager. So we're going to go ahead and select the IPv4. We're going to go ahead and type in the IP address of the domain controller. This was the one that we built in the last video. All right, sorry for all the fat finger in there. So now that we've typed that in, we're going to go ahead and say close here. So if we go here and we hit our up arrow again, and we're going to ping this name again. So now you can see that name is resolvable. So that means we have connectivity to that domain. We're on the same network, so we know that the networking is working. We just did some basic troubleshooting to see if we could actually access the area. Now that we know we can access the domain where we're trying to get joined to, we can then go through the process of joining the computer to the domain. So what we're going to do next, we're going to open up Server Manager here. We're going to choose our local server here. We're then going to select from the top here where we have our server name at, and it says work group, and it has the work group here is what we're currently a member of. So we'll select that, and you can see here, this has popped up now. So what we can now see is that we can go ahead and type in where we're going to change this to. So now we're going to type in the domain name now. So this is going to be, so this is the same name that we pinged earlier. We're going to select OK. So now we're going to get prompted with the user account or with the permissions that has access to join this server to the domain. So from here, we're going to use the administrator account that we know we have access to log in with. All right, I'm going to select OK. So once this happens, we're going to select OK here. And then this computer is now joined to the domain. So we can see here, it is now test lab, it's on the test lab 1 domain. Here's the name of the computer, and you can see here, here's the suffix that we talked about before that would be appended to it. So now whenever we go to ping something, it will append this right here to the end of it. So in order to be able to resolve a name. So if we were trying to get to test lab 3, we wouldn't have to type in what's called a fully qualified domain name. We would actually just be typing in the name of the computer. So in this case, it would be test lab 4. So we're going to go ahead and say close. Once we select close, we're going to be prompted to restart. We're going to go ahead and say restart now, and we'll just resume once the server is back up. Okay, now that our server has rebooted, we can now see that we have our log on here. So we can If we see a prompt like this, or we see a log on like this at the Control Alt Delete screen, we'll know that this is a local log on. So we see the server name /administrator. So that's going to be a local log on versus when we select here other user. This is going to be logging on to our domain. So as we can see here, it's Test Lab 1. So from here, we can go ahead and type in the name of the user that we're going to use. And this person should have access to log on to this server. If not, we'll get a prompt. And it doesn't have to be case sensitive, logons or not, unless it's specified. All right, so we can see here that user must change his password at sign in. So this is what we selected whenever we created the user account. I'm gonna say okay. So from here, we can see here's our old password, and we're gonna type in our new password. So we just type our new password in, and we're going to wait on this to update. So now we can see our password has been changed. So we're logging in. We're going to get prompted with our desktop. Okay, we can see now we're fully logged into the server. We can minimize our server manager if we wanted to. We can then select the folders down here at the bottom. We'll be able to go into here, and from here we can actually right click on computer if we wanted to. We could have did this from server manager as well, and we can see now that we are part of the test lab domain right here, which is testlab1.local. So now that we're part of this domain, we can start accessing resources and things of that nature, which we'll cover those in videos to come as we build out a file server and file cluster, and we start accessing files and things remotely, and we start going through the different things of what access and things on a network will look like. All right, and I hope again that this has been informative, and I'd like to thank you all for viewing. Thanks.